theme tonight. My theme tonight is about being different. How something can be two completely different things at once. Like being a scientist and being funny. All right, it's a stretch, I know, but bear with me, okay? Let's try. Let's start off with my topic tonight of genes. We're going to talk about genes and genetics. And genes are really, really tiny. Okay, they're in DNA. And DNA is in every cell in your body. There's a trillion copies of it in you. And it's only 100 millionth of an inch wide. It's extremely tiny. But it's also huge. So if I were to take that DNA and stretch it all out, one of those molecules, and stretch it out, it would be taller than me. It's amazing. It's absolutely huge. And it's absolutely full of information. It's not just huge in size, it's huge in information. If it were a book, if we took all those A's and C's and T's and G's that are in the DNA, whatever that is, and made them real letters, and made a book out of them, it would be 1,000,000 pages long. It's a huge book. It's got all that stuff your parents told you, what makes you special is in your genes, what you inherited from us. And that's true, but it turns out everybody's book is pretty much the same. Okay? So my book, my 1,000,000 pages that makes me me, is almost exactly the same as the 1,000,000-page book of the guy sitting in front of you blocking your view. Okay? There's only about 3 letters per page different between us. Okay, those 3 letters is it. That's all of it. The difference between all of us, 3 letters a page. All right? My mother still thinks I'm special, but it's not all that much. We're all the same words. Okay, the words in those DNA can be thought of as the genes or words. And so the difference is we have different genes. We all have the same genes. But there are some spelling variations, okay? Some of you have a slightly different letter here and there, and mostly the spelling variations don't matter very much, right? So, some people spell it labor, some people put a U in there, something like that. But sometimes the spelling variations, sometimes the genetic variations really do matter, okay? So some people have comedy in their blood. And some of us just have come die. And it's not just the book of your DNA that's pretty much the same as mine. Okay, your DNA is pretty much the same as my cat's. Okay, that cat has 900,000 pages of the same DNA as your 1,000,000-page book. All right, that's pretty much the same. Don't think you're all that special. And furthermore, it's not just cats and other people. The yeast that made the beer that's in your hand right now has about 1/3 the same pages as you do. All right, if we put you in a blender and biochemically looked, there wouldn't be very much difference between you. The beer would probably taste better. All right, so these genes, we kind of think that they are everything about us. But I also want you to hold in your head that difference, that each gene is hardly anything about you. Okay, they're really small. And we get confused by that because the way scientists go about trying to figure out what the genes do. All right, so they go and they take one out and they see what's lost. All right, we call it a knockout. And that's a kind of crazy way to learn how something works, right? Think about a sports analogy, right? Imagine I was trying to understand how football worked, and I took out your left guard from your team. So you can't use it. Okay, your team would lose all the time. But if I went to the coach and I said, I've discovered the secret to winning at football, it's the left guard gene, he would laugh me out of the room. At least he would laugh. Look, genetics is a team sport. The genes all work together to do things. All right? I have hypertension. It's a genetic disease, often, but there's 2,000 different genes that play a role, so far that we know, that play a role in hypertension. Okay, so if you take one of them out, your blood pressure goes up a little bit. Take that one out, your blood pressure goes up a little bit. Right? So it doesn't really explain how high blood pressure works. And furthermore, that genetic explanation, those 2,000 genes that play a role in high blood pressure, ignore the important role of the environment. Okay, not one of those genes can do to my blood pressure what my ex-wife can. Or for that matter, standing up here in front of all of you. All right, let's take another one. I don't know if you saw this, but a couple of years ago, there was a newspaper story that scientists have discovered the gene for marriage. That's pretty important. right? I'd like to know how that works. It's a gene called GABA-R2. It's a kind of GABA receptor. Okay, and it turns out that people who have a version of that that doesn't work as well as the kind of average GABA-R2, whatever that means, they don't get married very often. And so, newspaper headline, scientists discover the gene for marriage. But think about that left guard problem, okay? What GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter in your brain. And so people have that kind of GABA receptor that doesn't work very well. Their brains don't hear the inhibition message. Don't do that! The brains don't hear that, okay? And so, as children, they have conduct disorders. As adults, they're alcoholics. All right? So yes, it turns out that even if you separate out the alcohol, they still get married less often than other people. But it's not exactly a gene for marriage. Okay? You want to know a better gene for marriage? The one that gave me these blue eyes. All right? That really worked. All right. So I hope that I've given you a couple of interesting facts you can go home with about genes. But I want to quote the great philosopher Mark Twain, who said that it's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you do know that just ain't so. And you have a lot of mistaken ideas in your head about genes. You may not think you have intuitions about genes, but you do. Right? If I got a bad one, I'm screwed. There's nothing I could do about it. Maybe scientists will invent a drug to cure me, but that's kind of it, right? Does that sound familiar? Not so. I want to tell you about a gene called TCF7L2, another great name. TCF7L2 is something that most of us care about. It's a gene that makes you fat, okay? And it's not exactly as bad as it sounds. It starts off sounding pretty bad, okay? If you have the bad allele, the bad variant of TCF7L2, you are at great risk for obesity. And you're also at risk for diabetes. But don't count on the drug to help you, because if you have the bad TCF7L2 variant, the drug that we give to people who have prediabetes to help them avoid it, metformin, doesn't work. So you're kind of out of luck there. But you can find papers where scientists say that TCF7L2 is actually protective against obesity. Why is that? Well, because that gene variant makes your environment more important than other people's. Okay, the folks who have that variant, if they exercise and eat right, the pounds just melt away, right? Which is proof positive that I do not have that variant. But nevertheless, what it really means is, it could be really good for you if you make the right choices in life, okay? And I think there's a really deep lesson in that, okay? Sounds bad, what could be bad, is really good if you make the right choices. That's what my girlfriend's been telling me. Trying to understand. Last comment I want to make tonight on genes is really about how the big picture works. Remember I said genes are team sport. They work together, thousands of them working together to make you who you are. And it's not just your genes, it turns out. It's your spouse's genes, and your friend's genes, and even your neighbor's genes. There's a recent study published that shows that the body weight of mice depends on the genetics of their cage mates. Okay, just the other mouse that happens to be in the cage with them. It's a really weird and cool result. But what it means is, when you get on the scale and you don't like what you see, you don't even have to blame your own genes. Leave your parents out of it. You can look at your spouse and say, your genes are making me fat. Thank you very much.